So someone had asked about load data for these XTP loads. So I thought I'd demonstrate how I actually load them because there are some details. I can tell you the load data, but there's some details that you ought to know if you're going to be loading loading this load here. So just wanted to show some stuff about that. So here's some velocities that I took when developing this load. So I used the Federal Magnum pistol primers and the Winchester a large pistol, and I used 800X, and you can see the actual grains. So it's 10.4, 10.6, 10.8, and 11, and then you can see the velocities. And these are averages. So really, you ought to probably shoot a little bit more. I'd say in the future I'll probably be doing 5 rounds per grain weight instead of 3. But here's the averages, and you can see that we have increases until we reach a certain level. There's actually decrease here, but you can see it continued up. I settled on 10.8 because I knew that was definitely towards the top end, and I was getting a velocity that I liked. In the future, I might make a video about trying to extend this farther, and seeing if I actually can eke a little more velocity out or whether I encounter problems. So I'll probably do 5 rounds each for that. But the general theory on what you're doing when you develop these loads is, as soon as you start to get a decrease, like here we go from 1596 to 1592. As soon as we get a decrease or actually levels off on this side, it's the same velocity, then you want to kind of back off. And that's why, so when I hit 1592, it was less than 1596. And I said, well, we're getting the same velocity, actually a little more, so let's stick with 10.8. In the future, like we kind of saw that here, and then I pushed up, and actually it kept on going up. So in the future, I'll probably push farther. But for now, we're just going to settle on 10.8 grains. So the way I like to do this, most important thing to take away from this is I hand weigh everything, because we're using this 800X, which is a flake powder. And just so you can see what that looks like, is it comes in this this jug here. So it's Ogden high shore 800X. Anyhow, it's very flaky. If you're using a standard powder measure like this, I use tight group and stuff like that to dispense in a regular in a powder dropper. It works great, but if you drop 800X, you're gonna have over 1 grain of variance. You could be, if you want to shoot drop 10.8 grains, you might be dropping 10, you might be dropping 12. It's not exactly gonna drop all that well. And when you're loading at the very peak, that's a recipe for disaster. So number one thing, if you're loading 800X, just hand weigh it. It doesn't really take that long. So yeah, let's go ahead and just get to it, and then I'll actually shoot these really quick. So I actually just like to take a case. On topic of cases, you want to try to just pick a case and just stick with it. That way everything's consistent. It's not really a big deal. I interchange my cases, but it's definitely a best practice to do that. And that way, you're going to get the most consistent velocities, because every case manufacturer, they form a little differently. And you might have little less volume, a little more volume, depending on the case. And also, they're going to perform differently. They're going to be different, a little bit different brass, and the actually metallurgy it might not be tempered the same way, stuff like that. So you want to try to keep the same case for all your loads, especially at the top end, and that's what we're doing here. We're loading towards the top. So I just take the case and I know that if I fill it up, I'm getting pretty close to what I want to weigh this at. So got a scale on here. We're zeroed out. And we're just going to dump it in. I know that I'll dump the whole thing. I should be pretty close. So there, I'm about halfway. Take another big scoop. 10.4. 10.5. 10.6. 10.9. 11. Okay, so we went a little over. The scales, you know, a digital scale like this is just going to do just fine. We're not shooting, you know, 1/4-inch groups at 100, so we do want to be precise, but I'm not going to split hairs over it. And a scale that goes to 1/10 of a grain is going to be fine. You can use one of those. Oh, battery's low. Is that what that meant? You can use a gravity scale, but that's gonna be a pain in the ass. So I just stick to digital. I go ahead, you know, I use a powder dropper like this, and it works just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera. All right, so we got our seeding die here, and just gonna go ahead and seed it. So I'm not gonna go over setting this die up. Just read your manual that comes with it. They're normally, you know, fairly straightforward. Be careful not to crimp it and then try to adjust the seating, because that can cause problems, and you'll get a little ring. You get a little ring that shows up at the tip of the bullet, and you know it'll cause a bunch of problems. So just make sure you know how to use it correctly. And take your time with it, and then once you get set up, should be fine. So I'm going to seat these to 1.26, which is the maximum case length for a 10 mil. Okay. So why am I doing that? Well, I just want to I'm gonna cram as much powder as I can in there, so I want to seat it out as far as I can, as long as it's not touching the grooves, and I'm not having feed issues. You know, just get it out there as far as you can. So that's my philosophy. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and do that. So I always just get a little bit of, you know, light crimp. So when I pull it back up, I get a little bit of resistance, and then it comes out. And I know I'm good there. So I'm going to measure it, and, you know, then readjust, make sure I get it right. So I know we're a little long here, but, and then I'll, you know, get the crimp on it. So let's do it. So we got our seating depth dialed in. So we're sitting right there at 1.259, which is just fine. So I normally try to shoot it right at 1.255 to 1.26, and then I call it good. So all right, we're gonna go ahead and shoot this guy, and I'll show you the velocity. All right, so I got a 180 grain ball round loaded up just to test the chrono, and then we'll be doing the 155 XTP just to give you guys a velocity on it, and it should be about 1500 if that load data is correct. So let's do it. Ball round first, and we're getting 1142, and we're gonna reset. And oh wow, ball round went right through this block. That's pretty impressive. And I'll try to aim for the same spot. All right, well, maybe I put a couple extra grains of powder in or something, because we got 1650 feet per second. So I'll be investigating that. Anyways, that's all I got. just to give you guys a look at the backside. This is a ball round. This is XTP. That's XTP. So yeah, pretty impressive. It's 930 something foot-pounds right there.